Okay, audio syncing. Actually, let me. Hi, guys. I know that it has been a minute since I have last uploaded, and I think it's been like 3 months since I last posted a video. I did not mean to be gone for this long. Things just kind of happened. Life happened at me. And good news is that I'm back and I'm okay. So I figured that to make up for the 3-month long hiatus, we would have a little sit down, a little catch up sesh, get reacquainted. And to make this a little bit more interesting, I have here some hair dye. So I will be dyeing my hair. I will not be bleaching my hair because I've got auditions in the springtime and I am broke and I don't want to deal with that and I want to have my natural hair for the auditions. So I'm just going to be putting some red dye on top of my head. I do only have one glove though, so that's going to be interesting. So, where to begin? So, I moved to Boston all the way back in September, and I have this move-in vlog, and I'm honestly, I need to film the last part of it, which is insane because I moved in September and it is now February, but this is how long it has taken for me to get all of my belongings. And it's because very shortly after I moved in like mid-September, it was early October, I was at a music festival, Sing Noah Con, which was fabulous. It was an awesome time. Cried. My family life kind of exploded, and I'm not gonna get into the specifics because it's not really my place. It's not my story to share. I don't think it's smart for me to really air that business on the internet. But know that, I don't have a glove on this hand. I'm just gonna pray that that doesn't stain. So just know that it was very bad. It was not a fun time. It was basically 3 months of anxiety and stress, and I had to take an emergency trip down to New York where I spent a lot of money that I thought I would be able to have in savings. And, I had just taken this trip and I had to buy some stuff for my new apartment, and then I had to take this emergency trip down to New York, which was not what I was expecting, and then had to basically be financially responsible for another person, which I don't regret. I don't regret at all, and I'm not complaining about that. But that did put me in a bit of a bind, and just the emotional stress of dealing with all of that was ridiculous. And then on top of all of this stuff happening, right, I was having some issues at the job that I was at. Also, I'm going in, I'm not gonna prep literally anything. You see, I literally have a glove. I thought I had another glove. I don't. So it's fine. The last time I did this, I didn't put Vaseline on my face either, and nothing stained. So I feel like I should be a-okay. But anyways, I had gone back to the seafood place that I had worked at the last time I was here in Boston. Everything was pretty fine. I went back, there was a couple new menu items, it was whatever. Within my first day of training, I was literally it was training, right? I was being retrained, and literally I was left alone to serve, and I was fine, it was whatever. I knew how to do it. I was returning to a job that I already had been really good at. Before I left, I was a certified trainer and I was up for promotion, but I left. And if I actually hadn't told them that I was leaving, they would have trained me in that position. But because I was courteous, I fucked myself out of a promotion. So, doesn't matter how good the job is, don't let anyone know you're leaving if you're gonna leave. And this will come back later in this story. I need to stop telling people my plans, basically, especially when it comes to workplaces, because they don't care about you. Anyways, so I was going to be up for this promotion, but I left to go travel. So anyways, I'm back and I'm doing my job. And there's some new hires, right? Because like a lot of the old team left, which as they should, you know, they're on to bigger, better things, or like they're not in Boston anymore. And so there's new team members. Great, fine, whatever. You know, like I'm getting to know those people and like I'm seeing like a lot of old faces again. And I'm like, oh my god, hi. And I loved this team. Like I've always loved working with them. They were super sweet. And then this other girl comes back from California, who like she was like the love of my life. She was like my work wife, and like she came back, and that was like a big surprise. And all of the new people are like, they're all getting like really like hush hush, like they're like talking and whispering in corners and stuff. And they're like, because like she had come back to visit, and they were like, oh, who's that? And I'm like, oh my god, she used to work here. And they're like, oh, is she coming back? And I'm like, I have no idea, right? And then she ended up joining the team again. From that moment on, they had treated me and this other girl not that great. They were like really mean. Like they would not do like their closing work, and they would be like really passive aggressive, which was so stupid. And like hearing from other people on the team, it seems like they were really insecure about their job positions because like we were refilling the team. So like they had gotten used to getting the hours that they wanted whenever they asked, because we had like me come back and we had this other girl come back. We now had a full team. So we were getting like what normal hours were, and I guess like they were real pissy about that, and they were pissy about not always getting the shifts that they wanted. So they were just being really catty, and then they would try to make like comments of like I would go clean the bathroom, and then like this one girl was like, oh, like I'm gonna double check the bathroom, and then my coworker was like, oh, but Andrea had already cleaned it. And then she was like, oh yeah, but like, you know, they don't know, she doesn't always like do a good job, so I'm gonna double check, saying that I didn't know how to do my job. Like, girl, I was the one who set up the system that you do now. Like, but the biggest part of the tea is there was a Halloween party, and I stayed after with a couple of coworkers. So it was like me, it was the new hires, and it was one of our managers. And some stuff was said, and like they were like trying to talk crap about people on the team, and like saying like oh, like I hate working with this person, and then like calling the girl who came back, the one that I said was like my BFF, they were calling her like a bitch and saying that she was like, that she was really rude and stuff, and she was like really standoffish, which like isn't the case at all. Like, and I'm not even saying this from a biased perspective, like just like her objectively, and like seeing her like when she first came in trying to interact, she's just like quiet when she's getting to know you. Like she's louder with me and like the other people because we work together for like, for me it was like a year. With like the others it was like longer than that. So like obviously like her relationship's gonna be different with like us versus like new people, the same way I was with them, because I didn't know who they were, and I was like trying to get to know them and like see what their vibe was. They were trying to say like all this crap, and then they were saying like who their least favorite person was on the team, and they were like, Andrea, like who do you not like? And I was just like, I don't have a problem with anyone, like I don't know, which was like the truth. Like I didn't really mind working with anyone at that point. And then like trying to like get the manager in on it. And then I hear whispers about a promotion. So there's 3 big contenders for this. There's me, the person who was up for it before I left, and someone who has consistently been giving advice to the managers. And like I always felt like I was a bridge between the team members and the managers. Anytime there was some sort of issue, like I was kind of always the one, like the representative. And then there was the other girl who came back who already had done this position before, right? So like she's naturally a contender, like she's already been trained to do all of this stuff, and like she was a manager at a different location in California. The other person who was up was the girl who started bad-mouthing everyone at the party. And they ended up choosing her for this leadership position role. And when she took the job, the whole mood shifted. Like she really started treating like anyone who wasn't new, like anyone who was a part of like the original team, really poorly and just being really mean and like being really unfair, especially about like closing duties. So it was just like this whole thing, and like everyone noticed and everyone felt it, and it created this really big divide. The managers had the audacity to come to me and be like, hey, what's your opinion on all of this? And I was like, I said that this was an issue, and I said that you needed to nip it at the bud, but instead you did nothing. You didn't talk to anyone, you let it grow, and you let all this shit happen, and then you want to give her promotion? And I'm like, no, you were there when she wanted to talk bad about her teammates, and now you're wondering why everyone's upset. So that, coupled with the fact that like the customers in Harvard Square are the absolute worst. Like, Harvard students are so rude, they're so mean, and they treat you like crap, and then they don't tip you. It was that, and I was just making like so little money, and I was working so hard, and then just the stress of like dealing with all of that plus the emotional work drama, I'm like, I can't deal with this. Ugh. Ow. And I'm like, I'm too grown for this. Like, this is like some high school level drama that like I just don't have the time for. Like, again, I have all of this family stuff happening in the background, so I decided to leave. You know, I'm dealing with this emotional crap, I'm dealing with this work drama, then I was trying to find jobs. All of this happening, I don't have most of my things. Like, I'm living with like 3 pieces of furniture and like the backpack that I was traveling with. Like, I had bought a couple more things, but like I really didn't have a whole lot. And like winter was starting and I didn't have my winter clothes. And then I finally got like all of my stuff all at once. And that was hectic. That was so hectic because it was right before I had to go to New York. And I left everything unpacked, and it was like this whole thing. Finally, I quit. I find 2 new jobs, right? So I'm working at a cafe, and then I'm working at a bar. You know, all of this happening too, I'm also dealing with like the emotional stress of like, I'm not with my family for the holidays because I can't afford to be, which was really upsetting. Like, Thanksgiving and Christmas came and went, and like I spent it with people. Like, I was able to go to like different friends, like family celebration, and that was lovely, and it was so sweet of them, and I had an amazing time. But it was still really upsetting because, like, you know, the year before I'd been traveling, and I didn't realize like how lonely I was gonna feel during the holidays without them. And I really wanted this holiday season to be with family, and the fact that like I couldn't really do that was really upsetting. I don't know, the fact that a lot of my family didn't help throughout this whole situation too made it like really layered and really conflicting, because, you know, there were people more capable than I who could have lended a hand and just didn't. It felt like they were all expecting me to do it, and they were like, oh, like, good for you for doing that, without actually ever checking in on me. So it's like this layered thing of like, you know, I want to be with my family for the holidays while also feeling deeply betrayed. So yeah, a lot of upsetting things happening. If I wasn't working, finding another job, or like actively helping out this family member, I was in my room bed rotting because I just had no energy for anything else. I was very much like on survival mode, and the fact that I had found myself in this position again was also very deeply upsetting to me, because like I felt like I had failed. You know, I thought that like I was really setting myself up, and then like this big thing kind of exploded and landed on my lap, and I didn't have a way to really deal with it. Stepping back, I know that I handled it as best as I could, and I'm very proud of myself for handling it the way that I did. However, in the moments of like going through it, it was rough, and I felt like I wasn't doing good enough, or like I just was holding on to a lot of guilt, and I felt like I should have been doing more, or should have been able to do more. Yeah, so then, you know, Christmas, New Year's came, and I was working extra hours, especially at the cafe. And this place I will name drop, because oh my god, screw this guy. So I was working at the Thinking Cup, right? So I got hired, and they were like, yeah, like you'll train as a cashier for a bit, and then we'll put you on as barista. And I was like, yeah, totally valid. Let me learn the menu. Let me learn like the scape of like the place, and then like and then they were like, yeah, and then you'll start like barista training, like we'll put you on a couple shifts, like get you acquainted with this machine. Totally normal. And I was like, word. So I was working all these hours as cashier, and it was fine for a while, right? And then after New Year's, my hours started to be cut back, and I was like, you know what, that's totally normal, like people are coming back from the holidays. And then I was put on like 2 days a week, and then I just got cut one week. I just wasn't on the schedule. So I was like, oh my gosh, weird that the schedule hadn't come out. The schedule had come out. I simply was not on it, and I was like, what the F? So I sent an email, and I was like, hi Hugh, I hope this email finds you well. You know, I've noticed that since New Year's, my hours have been diminished, and now I am just simply not on the schedule whatsoever. You know, I would love to have another meeting to talk about like my hours and my position, you know, because I was also told that I would be put on as barista, like I had done a training, and like I would be put on as barista at some point, and like that just hasn't happened. And like, I just want to know what's going on. And he's like, yeah, let's schedule a call for Thursday. So Thursday comes. I go on this call. And he's so, like, inflammatory just from the get-go. Immediately he says, I have some constructive criticism for you, which I know people don't like to hear, but, like, I need to tell you. And then proceeds to tell me that, basically, that I'm a bad worker, that, like, I don't clock out, that I'm always late, that I try to leave early, that I don't help out, like blah 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 blah, like all of this stuff. And like saying that, like, you know, people have been complaining about me, and I'm like, whoa, like this is the first time I'm hearing about anything. And then like I'm like, they're like, yeah, like you're not doing your job like before you leave, and you're just running out, like you need to ask people before you go. And I'm like, I always ask the shift manager. If anything, I'm the most annoying person about it. To like be like, they're like, yeah, leave, like you've done everything. And I'm like, you know, this is the first that I'm hearing about any of this. And you know, like I worked here long enough to where if there were issues, I would have liked to know prior to. I feel like this is only being brought up because I asked about my hours. You know, like it seems like he was trying to diminish my needs and my ass, and it already felt like I was being quiet fired to begin with. And he was just really rude, and he was like, oh, so basically you think that you're perfect. And I'm like, I'm not saying that I think that I'm perfect. I'm like, you know, from what I'm aware, I am clocking out. I'm like, if anything, I'm more guilty of forgetting to clock in, and that's probably why you think I'm late. Sometimes I forget to clock in, but like I'm there on time, I'm there for opening. There are times where I just like forget to clock in. I'm clocking out, and if it's something that's an issue, then maybe I wasn't shown how to clock out correctly, and then you can tell me. But, you know, this is something that you tell me the day of that it happened, so like no one has ever told me that I wasn't clocking out. And I was like, maybe like once or twice, it might have slipped my mind. And he was like, no, it was more than once. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't know if you're confusing me with someone else. Like, I've not heard complaints. And like, I've talked to the shift leads, and they say nothing but high praise. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. And he's like, so talking about your hours. And I'm like, yeah, so I've noticed that my hours have been diminished, and like since the holidays. And I'm like, look, if you overhired during the holiday season, that's fine. Like, I get it. Then let me take more hours at my other job, and I can make this my part-time job. He's like, let me tell you, like, well, you're killing me with not being able to work closing on like Saturday, Sunday. I was like, you told me that you needed people in the morning, right? And before I could even finish that sentence, he's like, frankly, what I need is someone who isn't working 2 jobs. Then give me the hours. Give me the hours if that's the case. If you need someone to work and you need them to have that full flexibility, give me the hours. Give me the hours. I will work only here. Give me the paycheck for it. Sure. And he says, he's like, I know that's not reasonable. Oh my God, no way. No freaking way. I'm like, you know, if you're gonna make me part-time, then we can talk about like what shifts like you would want me to work and to have covered, and then I can have the availability to work at this other place. He's like, you know, I need the flexibility. And I was just like, I'm like, I don't know what you want from me at this point. I'm like, I really don't. So he says to me, oh, like, where are you working right now? And I'm like, at a bar. And he's like, where is it? And I'm like, in Alston. And he's like, well, you live in Alston, so that's like better for you anyways, right? He's like, you should just get more hours there. And I'm like, that's what I'm trying to do, but you won't tell me what hours I can get here so that I can get more hours there. Like, you're not being flexible with me. I'm like, but yeah, he was like, you should work more hours there. It sounds like that's better for you anyways. And that's when I was just like, mouth agape. I was like silent. He's like, you're not satisfied. And I'm like, no, I'm just like, I'm thinking. And I'm like, I appreciate the feedback. He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, like, woe is me. He's like, you've been working. And I'm like, this week I haven't been. And he's like, oh, I guess you haven't. He's like, oh, like, I've got 3 cafes that I own that I need to schedule for, and it's just like a mix-up. I'm like, you were just complaining that I couldn't do my job, but now it seems like you cannot do your job. He's like, yeah, like, oh, it's just so hard to manage and own 3 cafes. Oh. And I'm like, I don't feel bad for you because you're still making money despite being bad at your job. I didn't do anything wrong. If anything, it's your mistake, and now I don't get money to pay my rent and stuff. Like, I need that. And he's like, well, why don't you just work 1 job? And I'm like, because I need 2 jobs to be able to afford to live. And also, at the same time, I'm funding a family member, which he doesn't know about, but he doesn't need to know that anyways. And like, regardless, living in Boston is still super expensive. So I would have needed that extra job regardless. So yeah, and then we end the phone call. He then puts me on the schedule for the next 2 weeks. He sends out that like the next 2 weeks I only get 3 days. And like, I take a couple days to like sit and reflect. And I was like, I really don't want to like work at a place where like, I feel talked down to. I was like, it's not worth the money to be stressed out about this, especially because it seems like he's doing everything in his power to not fire me so that he doesn't have to give me unemployment, which is like really messed up. And I was like, he's giving me these 2 weeks. I'm going to find a new job in the meanwhile. Like, I'll work these 2 weeks. I'll put in my 2 weeks, find a different job. I sent in an email and I'm like, hey, upon reflection after a meeting, I just don't think that this is going to be a good fit for me. So I'm going to give my 2 weeks. Like, I'm scheduled for the next 2 weeks. I will work those shifts, but those will be my last. And then he sends an email in response and he's like, Andrea, like, I appreciate your professionalism. Like, I really appreciate it, and I will take this effective immediately. And then he removes me from the schedule for the next 2 weeks. So don't tell people when you're leaving! Why else haven't I been posting? My birthday was in January. It was the week of the 14th. That is when my birthday is the 14th. But I spent that week having a lot of TLC because I really needed it after the couple months I had been having. Yeah, I took that week to not do any work. I wasn't gonna work. I was gonna focus on me and have a good time. I was hungover for most of that week, which meant that it was a 23rd well spent. It was a very good time. And then the week after that, I was just deathly ill. I was so sick, which is why my voice sounds the way that it does. It's still a little tired. I'm still a little congested. That's why I've been coughing. But not that. I am good. The family matters have been resolved for the most part. So now it's just kind of getting back on track. My hair should be ready. She's been marinating for a little bit. So I'm gonna shower and then I'll finish this recap. Okay, I am back and my hair has dried for the most part. I don't think you can super tell. I did like a red, so it's kind of looks more like a cherry cola if I get close. You can kind of see it in the light. I don't know. I might try to take some like photos of it in the sun tomorrow because it looks more red in the light than it does like now because my hair is dark. That's where I'm at with my life. Actively looking for another job, but I do still have this job at this bar as a waitress, and that's super fun. Back to myself and like really getting back into the swing of things. I'm going back to the gym, I'm eating consistently, my life is more in order, and yeah, I will be back to regularly posting every other week. I've got a lot of content ideas, a lot of videos that I'm like prepping for, that I'm excited about. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and make sure to hit the bell notification so that you get notified every single time that I post, because I will literally be forever. and I will see you in the next video.